Hello, FlossTube. We're back with Stitch Mania, the talk show, with our very, very special guests, Michelle, filling in for Katie again this month, and with Kristen of Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts and Stitching Book Club, which is what I think most of us know her for. Hi, Kristen.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Having me.
So we are going to talk to her. We're going to find out what next year's book list is, and then Michelle and I have to stay quiet about it for like a week.
Oh my God.
which is gonna be a
you
challenge.
have no idea how hard it has been to not list books. People keep asking me like every day, what are the books? What are the books? And it's like, can't tell you.
I know.
I can't imagine the pressure of not telling us.
No, I'm so excited. Michelle and I are gonna play a small game before we find out what it is. So it'll be exciting to see. So first, all right, Kristen, tell us, how did you get started stitching?
So I can't even remember when I learned how to cross stitch because my mom taught me when I was really little. I grew up like literally out in the woods in Montana. Like we had no neighbors, you know, I couldn't like skip on down the street and hang out with my friends. So my mom was always giving me and my sister like little crafty things to do. And cross stitch was just one of those things. But I never really it wasn't like a thing that I stuck with. It was just something I knew how to do. And then in my 20s, probably around like 26, I just decided I wanted a new craft because I'd been crocheting and stuff and I wanted something else to work on. So I thought about cross stitch and I started doing it and I really enjoyed it. And then I found FlossTube and it was just all over after that.
Isn't that the way? That is
that seems to be the rabbit hole we all fall down. All right, so what got you interested in designing?
Honestly, it was kind of out of necessity. Like when I started cross-stitching, my stitchy budget was non-existent and patterns are really expensive. And so I just thought, you know what? I'm artsy. I draw and paint and things like that. So I thought, how hard can it be to design like a simple little cross-stitch? And so I did that and I fell in love with it.
So when you first started designing, did you use a program? Did you just use graph paper? Did you just say like, I'm gonna put these stitches in and it worked? How'd you?
No, I got a program. I started PC Stitch. They have like a free trial download thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that and it's so easy to use, you know, and the design that I started with, I don't know, Garrett, maybe you remember it because you've been following me for so long. It was the Orange Bird cross stitch from Disney. Yeah. That was the first one I did and it was super easy. I just like took an image of Orange Bird and like popped it in and then like edited it all how I wanted it. Nice. And it turned out really good. And so I just went with that.
Nice. So before you did Stitching Book Club, you had your own sort of sets of designs. What of those inspired you? I know the Zippity-Doo-Dah was I think the one that kind of got you the most attention at first.
Yeah, well, Zippity-Doo-Dah, for those that don't know, it's an actual replica. They're at the Splash Mountain attraction in the Magic Kingdom. There is multiple cross stitches throughout that queue line. And I'd never noticed them until I started cross stitching. And then one day I was there and I was like, there's a cross stitch on the wall.
And then there's how that happens.
And then I found this one at the end of the queue line. It's kind of hidden almost. You have to kind of look for it. And it was just this beautiful one that had the Zippity-Doo-Dah quote. And so I sat there and I took a bunch of pictures of it and copied it. And originally I put it on Etsy for only like a couple bucks. It wasn't even to like try to make it as like a business or whatever. It was just like, hey, I think people are going to like to stitch this. I just need to get it out there somehow. And over time it just started tumbling. And then I joined Instagram and started posting pictures. And that's when the majority of people started finding my patterns.
Perk Hopper Bart was the one that introduced me to that one.
He's one of the few people that has actually finished Zippity-Doo-Dah. If I'm being perfectly honest, I haven't even finished.
I was gonna say I found your picture.
Yeah.
That's the place that I'm at.
It's I mean, beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, pattern, and I would love to finish it it's a beast of a pattern. And I just felt like I haven't had time to work on it lately.
Well, and that's largely, I'm guessing, because of Stitching Book Club.
Yeah.
So how did Stitching Book Club come about?
So it was last summer, and that's weird to say because it feels like it has been way longer than a year.
Mm-hmm.
It was just last summer. I was in a very, very stitchy place. Like I was stitching every free hour that I had. And then I was also reading a novel, which it was a fictional novel, but it was supposed to be like the autobiography of Charlotte Bronte.
Mm-hmm.
And one day it was like, I just had this casual day of stitching and reading and stitching and reading. And then I popped in the 2007 Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice. And I was like, gosh, this is such just a lovely day. Like Jane Austen and Charlotte Bronte and stitching. And I just thought it'd be really cool to have like a group of people just discuss classic literature and did needlepoint. And so I posted it on my Instagram, the idea, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe like a dozen of my closest stitchy friends will say, yeah, I'll give it a try. And by the next morning, it was like, oh my gosh, there were so many people. Yep. And it just blew up after that.
So what made you choose Pride and Prejudice first then, as sort of your, I guess, the trial run, as it were?
Right. Well, mainly because I was watching that movie when I came up with the idea.
Fair enough.
And I knew the story really, really well. So it wasn't like I was going to have to sit there and like study the book. And I just thought Pride and Prejudice is probably one of the most beloved classics. Like everybody knows Pride and Prejudice, right? So I just thought that would be a jumping point. And then immediately after I thought of the idea, Frankenstein was the second I thought of. So yeah.
Okay. So what challenges do you face with picking the books?
It is so hard. Like you have no idea how many times I have rearranged and changed the book list for this coming year because there are so many great books. Mm-hmm. And there have been so many recommendations from everybody else of like things they would like to see. So yeah, it's been really, really hard. It's not a problem finding books. It's a problem narrowing it down to which one. Because really we can only fit about 4 in a year. Mm-hmm. So what ended up deciding for me for this coming year was kind of 2 things. One, again, what have people been requesting the most? And 2, like out of what people have requested the most, what are the ones that I could just like immediately kind of come up with a concept for the needlework? Mm-hmm. Because there's some that have been like really highly requested, but when I sit and try to think of a design, I'm just like drawing nothing. And so we're going to hang on to those until, I have that brainwave. But all the books that I've picked for this year were ones that I immediately like maybe didn't have like an exact clear picture, exactly what I wanted to do, but I had a pretty general idea.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is how does the book inform your design? Like Pride and Prejudice was very samplery. Mm-hmm. And then The Three Musketeers was still samplery. Frankenstein, I would say, is more like almost a modern design, but for, not a modern book. So like, how do you just kind of get the feeling like this is what it should look like?
I can't even really, like pinpoint a thing. I think like every time I just start a design, I just get into the design program. I mean, certain things I know, like The Three Musketeers, I knew I wanted to have the quote, all for one and one for, or is it? Yes, I always get them mixed up.
It's back there. We see it.
Yeah. I knew I wanted to have that quote, and so I started with that, and then I just kind of played around with other things. And people, like I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you design? Like how do you do it? How do you come up with these things? And I literally, I wish that I had like a formula that I could tell everyone, but it genuinely, I feel like designs more often than not kind of create themselves. Because there's so many times I've gone into my design program thinking, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And it comes out like nothing like I had planned. Kind of like it just literally has a life of its own. It just kind of grows. Like The Secret Garden originally was not going to look like that at all.
Oh, man. And that one is.
Yeah, that one, which I've got here because I haven't gotten mine sent to the framer yet. So there's The Secret Garden. I did, full disclosure, I did go for some hand dyes for the flowers. So mine looks a little different. But it was it's so pretty, and it's so much fun. It was so much fun to stitch. What was the original concept? Because I remember you telling me at the time, you're like, man, this took me forever. And then all of a sudden, what was the original concept that you'd had? Or do you remember?
Honestly, the original concept was a little more along the lines of Frankenstein. I originally was going to have like kind of like a garden terracey like border and then little pictures in boxes, a lot like Frankenstein. And how it morphed into that, I don't know, but it did, and I'm happy it did because that's honestly my favorite one that we've done so far.
It's fantastic. And it's I'm super excited because I'm getting a crafting room shortly, and so I'm really excited to actually tackle doing like the mat board and the shadow box like you did. So I'm really excited to do that and get that up. And then I've got because you also did, and I don't know if anyone else has stitched this besides me. I think I may be the only one, or the only one I've seen, but I did stitch your logo and I'm finishing it in a hoop so that I can have it like in the middle and then all of them sort of spin out from around it so that I can have like a wall of Stitching Book Club.
Oh, that's so awesome. Have you done them all, Garrett?
I've at least started them all. I finished Three Musketeers. It's with Oliver being finished and turned into because I wanted to do sort of the Trident style banner. So I chopped a little bit off so that it would come to a point. That's with him. I've got Secret Garden finished. I've got Book Club finished. I'm in the middle, which I know we're all in the middle of, Christmas Carol, which I'm so in love with this. I did not realize just quite how big my fabric was and how not big the pattern would be. So I'm filling up this lovely
just a little extra.
So we're gonna have some extra fabric around it, but I'm absolutely living it. So I've definitely started all of them. I just have to finish all of them.
Yeah, Garrett is one of the biggest supporters. I appreciate him very much.
Thank you.
I think you have two ends of the spectrum here because I feel like Garrett is in on the ground floor and I'm like such a new. I love watching them.
Yeah.
But I'm that guy that I have so many whips that I just like, can I justify a start? But I have to go back and do the Secret Garden because like watching Garrett do his, every single time he posted, I was like, I gotta get that. I gotta get that. And now that he holds it up finished, I'm like, I gotta get that. So
I've heard that from a lot of people that they're like, oh my gosh, I want to do this so bad, but I have like 20 whips already. And that's why I keep all the patterns available like after the sale. A lot of people think that once the sale's over, they're gone, but they're not. You can definitely still get them.
Which, thank you for that. And now that I know, like, because this, honestly, like, first of all, your color theory, like, can we talk about your color theory?
Oh my God.
This, I'm just doing it in all the called for, and this is like perfection. Like, so just, thank you for that. And
let me just tell you, that is not easy.
No, I know, because like,
it's
color is hard, right? And I think you are going to be, because some designers, I'm like, when this designer puts out a pattern, I change nothing. Yeah. And you are that designer for me too, because like, what could I change? Although I'm talking and Garrett's doing it all in Krynix and it looks amazing, but like, so, but then the really beautiful thing, and I will say for people who are like, I can't do another sal, this is 2 parts of your sal. This is 2 days of stitching.
Yeah.
Like you can do another, you have time for this. Everyone
this one, the first one only took me, I think maybe 4 hours. And then the second part took me about 5, but I was also distracted by television. So if I'd been sitting there
the wrong color once and caught myself and had to go back. So
I at least have been fortunate with the color on this one. I haven't had to frog, because if I'd had to frog Krynix, that would have been not fun. So, and that's part of why I did beads instead of French knots, because I was just like, I'm not quite that insane. I can read French knots in Krynix, but I choose
crazy
not to.
I read Kristen's post about the French knots and I was like, gosh darn it, I'm doing the French knots. And they're beautiful. And I did them. So thank you for your post.
I honestly didn't expect very many people to do the French knots because I know how many people complain about French.
There's a resistance to French knots.
I think the amount of people have actually done the French knots. So.
They're fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, they're beautiful. So I'm excited to see what's coming for part 3.
Saturday can't come fast enough.
I know. What's been the most fun part about this whole Stitching Book Club process for you?
I mean, definitely just you guys, like the people that participate. It's amazing. I can't believe how many people have literally stitched every single piece that I've put out. Like, not just every book, but like when I was doing the minis and the fulls, like there's people that have done literally every single piece that I've put out. And I absolutely love people. I never understand this. It makes me so sad. People always like write to me and apologize for changing the pattern, like putting in special stitches or changing the colors. And I'm like, no. Like, I love seeing when you guys change them. Sometimes I'm like scrolling through my feed and like a picture will pop up and I'm like, that looks really familiar. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's mine. Someone has like changed the colors or whatever. So I absolutely love that. And there's absolutely no need to apologize ever for changing anything.
And did I see you post, just recently post, like you're at 600 people for a Christmas Carol stitch along? Because you just said like, I thought my 12 best friends would do it. And I immediately I thought of that post and I'm like, so your 600 best friends are in on this now.
Yeah, A Christmas Carol is officially the largest like active participants during the sale. Like some of them have hit 600 like post finishing, but this is one that has had like during the sale 600 active participants, and we're now officially at like 3,500 followers on Instagram.
Wow!
Congratulations. Well, I mean, well deserved.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Well deserved.
So dogging a little to what you were saying about the minis and the fulls. I know you did a mini for Pride and Prejudice and Three Musketeers. Are you gonna go back to
that? Like, I've finished the stitching, I just haven't fully finished it. That's 3 years.
And it's like, because I was actually originally doing the mini of Three Musketeers, and then like I saw the full thing, I was like, no, I have to do the full thing. It's like, this is too cool not to do the full thing. So what are you going to continue doing? Some with mini, some with full, or because there hasn't been a mini since. Well, I mean, I guess there sort of was for Secret Garden. Because there was the one that was wasn't there?
There was the alternative one because a lot of people get the materials because of the pandemic. So yeah, originally I did the minis because the fulls were huge, and actually originally, like for Pride and Prejudice, it was just the full pattern. And then I had someone message me and say, I've never cross-stitched in my life. Can I do this? And I was like, that's going to be intense. So I designed the mini like specifically for that person and put it out there. That wanted it. Nice. Thanks.
It was really nice. Just saying.
But since then, I just felt like we did the Three Musketeers kind of the same way. But since then, I just feel like the vast majority of people need less stitching per period because the majority of people just were not finishing. So I've been trying really hard to make them a little bit smaller. Like A Christmas Carol is really small, and the reason for that is the book is really small. So I kind of am just going to gauge them going forward on the length of the novel. Like we have one book coming up next year that's quite long, so I think that's going to be a little bit bigger piece. So I don't really plan on doing both fulls and minis every time, but if there's ever one that is like huge, I probably will do a mini too.
And then are you still, because I know you were at least there for a little while, you were doing some for your Sapphire Mountains line versus the Stitching Book Club. Are you still doing, like you did the Frog Prince, which I think is absolutely adorable.
So
and
good.
It's actually for a book club, it's just not a sal. So.
Okay. See, I misunderstood that then. Yeah, no, I love that one. I'm hoping you'll do more of those.
Yes, I would like. Book club has just kind of turned into this thing that takes up so much time that like I have so many ideas for non-book club patterns, but just no time to deal with them.
Right.
So I'm hoping in the future I can kind of get back and do some of those Sapphire Mountain handcraft ones. But as of right now, book club is kind of just like my all-consuming stitchy thing. So
where did the name Sapphire Mountain handcrafts come from, by the way?
So I'm originally from Montana. I didn't move to Florida until I was in my 20s, and we weren't exactly in the Sapphire Mountains, but the Sapphire Mountains were adjacent to the mountain range that we were in.
Okay.
So.
All right. That had nothing to do with anything other than I'm a nosy person. So
I think we all want to know that, right? Like, how'd you get your name? Where did it come from? Stitching book club, we get it, right?
Yeah.
Self-explanatory.
So to sort of kind of go over what has been done so far book-wise. So you started, of course, with Pride and Prejudice. I feel like I need to justify the fact that I pulled all these books. So Pride and Prejudice was the first one. It's definitely, they're all still available. And it's beautiful. And I the thing that I love about this is you've done, it's like every single one is different enough from the others that it's not, because there are some designers that, and I don't mean this like to sound like a slam to other designers, that it's a little bit rut-like, for lack of a better term. Like
it feels repetitive a little bit, but
like as much as I do love the Soda Stitch fairy tale series, it's all one big biscuit square and then 4 smaller biscuit squares and the characters around. And it's like you do 2 or 3 of those and then you're like, I need to do something else now. I've done too much of this. But
these feel really informed by the book.
Yes,
right?
and they're
like
always so fresh.
Yeah.
Like I really love, I don't know if the intent was, but I love in Pride and Prejudice how it looks like a nice table setting. With
I didn't even notice that.
Oh yeah,
it does though, right?
I thought they were. I thought it was plates with the initials of the couples in them, and then I thought it was like a fancy like Edwardian like table setting.
Now that you totally see it, but originally no, not what.
Well, and it feels very prim and proper, you know, and very like
and so fitting for it. And then we jump into the Three Musketeers, which was a massive book. Because I like to get the ones that, well, it was a newer translation, but I also like bigger text size. I just find that easier to read for me. But you had the Three Musketeers, which was that fabulous banner that and I love that French cross in the middle.
And speaking all of colors, the fabric on that, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
To choose that blue. Oh.
And then we went from that to The Secret Garden, which was a lot of fun, and it was a fun one. You've got that beautiful finish, and they're all so individual, but you can still feel your style. So you've got a definite style, but it's so nice. And then we had our lovely Frankenstein that I still have to finish, and then. Of course, we're currently in the middle of A Christmas Carol, which aside for Christmas Carol, I'm really impressed. I know you said you haven't seen it yet, so that's like your homework assignment from me is you have to watch it. But I'm overly impressed at how the Muppets Christmas Carol, like Charles Dickens should have had a screenwriting credit on that thing because they lived so much of the dialogue and narration just straight from it that I've been very pleasantly surprised by the Muppets for that.
Yeah, I need Christmas Carols because you told me that, and now I have to see. Oh yeah, no, and
you get the full story, but you have like Statler and Waldorf as the Marleys, and it's and Gonzo is Charles Dickens narrating it, because where else would you have put Gonzo? I mean, truth be told, it's A Christmas Carol. He doesn't really fit. So that was the last essentially year and a half of Stitching Book Club. So shall we discuss what's going to be next year? Are we excited? Okay. So Michelle and I decided in advance that we were going to try and guess the 4 titles. And she and I have not discussed, so I don't know if we're going to have overlap or not. So Michelle, do you want to say the first title you're thinking of first?
Yeah, and now I feel like I need to really quickly reevaluate my guesses because you said one of the books is really long and none of my guesses are really long. So I went with for my first guess, I went with a slightly more modern classic. And because I love a dystopia, I chose 1984, George Orwell.
Oh, I actually have not read 1984.
I never read that either. No.
It's terrifying.
It's funny because when I was in high school, that was on the 11th grade curriculum, but I had a different teacher. We had like a block history English class. So everything was all combined into that. So we didn't do Frankenstein like everyone else did. We didn't do 1984. We did so ours was all weirdly integrated. So so basically whenever anyone's like, oh yeah, American classic, I did not read it because
I've probably read it because I read it in 11th grade.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, because you're 17. But then I read it again like every 3 or 4 years, and it just gets scarier every time you read it. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm right, but that's my guess.
Frankenstein, every time I read it, I feel like I find more things that I'm just, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay,
What's your
so
first one, Garrett?
my first one actually is a longer one, although the copy I have here is not a terribly thick edition. But my first guess was Wuthering Heights, because I thought, oh, well, it's longer. It kind of fits in with Pride and Prejudice and Three Musketeers. It's also one I have not read, and thank God this is my husband's copy. So I'm really, it's a nicer copy than I'm sure some of them out there, but no, it's actually got decent sized font, so I may not have to rebuy this one. But I mean, not that I rebuy books to have, not that I do that. No, not at all, says the guy
behind you.
So that was my first guess, was Wuthering Heights.
Okay. Are we going to guesses, or am I telling you what the first book is?
No. We'll guess all four, and then we'll do the reveal. Because if we pick one that you've got, and then it was like my third guess, then that makes it sad. Right. So, Michelle, what's your next guess?
Okay, my next guess. I love this book. It's an older one, but I think it's pretty long, so maybe I got one right. The Count of Monte Cristo.
Ooh.
I love a good revenge story, although I will say that the book is a little dark for me. I prefer the movie version with Jim Caviezel, where they get a little bit of a happy ending, and the book, not so much the happy ending, but Count of Monte Cristo. It's got to be.
The Count of Monte Cristo is one of only 3 classics that I have read more than once. So I also love The Count of Monte Cristo. I actually was originally going to do The Count of Monte Cristo instead of The Three Musketeers.
Oh.
And then to get in the mood for The Count of Monte Cristo, I started watching the BBC series The Three Musketeers, and then I was just like, nope, I'm gonna do The Three Musketeers.
And suddenly you were in the mood for The Three Musketeers. Hey.
Yeah.
Well, but it worked out. So.
Well, and I've been meaning to watch the BBC series, because I did, like, after I finished reading the book, because I wanted to read the book first, because I knew nothing about the Three Musketeers other than the Wishbone episode, which, as much as we do love Wishbone, I mean, you don't really get a vague sense of the story, and that's about it. I may not have read that classic, but I have probably seen the Wishbone. So I waited. So I watched the Disney one, and I watched the older one with Angela Lansbury. So I'd watched those two, but I haven't watched the BBC series yet.
They do modernize it a bit. Mm-hmm. They do add things. And I'm not sure if some of the things they added to the series are from, like, the sequels to the Three Musketeers. So I'm not sure. But I mean, it was a really good series, so I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, it was definitely, it's on my list of things to watch. And I love, side note here, I love that literally every book you picked this year, there's a 1993 film.
That's funny.
I don't know how you managed to pull that off, but Muppet Christmas Carol, the 90s Secret Garden, the Disney Three Musketeers, and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein were all 1993.
I feel like only Garrett would have put that together.
Well, and it wasn't even intentional. I just noted, I was like, oh, well, there was that one, and then I thought, oh, wait a minute, didn't Secret Garden come out in 93? Because I saw that in theaters, and because I had a brief obsession with the Secret Garden, because what 8-year-old boy doesn't? And then I was like, wait, Muppet Christmas Carol was 93. So then I had to look and see when the Frankenstein one from the 90s came out, and again, so bravo for that weird synchronicity. So, all right,
Garrett, what's your second?
My second is, and this one I went, because what I tried to do in my head was match up this year's books to another year. So I tried to look for things that I thought would sort of tie in. So my next pick in place of, like, Secret Garden was Little Women.
That's good.
Which I haven't read it. Actually, really, I haven't read most of these. I own them. Well, actually, my husband owns them. I haven't read them. I've seen the films, but
Well, you want to know a secret? The majority of the books we've done, I hadn't read before either. So.
Okay, so help me remember to come back to that, because that ties back into another to a question then that I've got. So my second guess was Little Women. So that's my guess number 2.
I didn't do that. I feel like Garrett put so much more thought into this, and I was like, what books would I want to stitch? That was my whole thought process. What books would I want to stitch? What am I hoping to see? So my next one, because of, I think, the really cool, like, Art Deco style of it, The Great Gatsby. I thought that would translate into stitching, like, that would be super fun. And it's short, you can read it quick.
Yeah,
so.
that is a quick read.
Gatsby.
I love that Gatsby's always the one NaNoWriMo cites when they're like, can a novel be this? Yes, because The Great Gatsby is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, all right, well, there we go. So my guess, because I went back and forth on this like 5 or 6 times, so I'm not 100% on this guess. But in place of Frankenstein, I went back and forth between this one and another one. So the one I ended up settling on was Dracula, Bram Stoker. And I won't lie, the large reason for thinking this, because you and I talked to, when I was trying to pick my colors for Frankenstein, I was like talking to Kristen, I was like, there are people that are choosing black and red, and that's totally Dracula colors, not Frankenstein colors. So that was what pushed Dracula over the edge on. My backup was Phantom of the Opera, because I thought, what's kind of scary, but not really scary. Right. And Phantom's a weird book, but
I've never read that one either. I know the films. But...
It's one of those, sort of like Frankenstein, sort of like Dracula, where the original book and the film adaptations are all wildly different from each other, but they all sort of hit on either the same basic things, or they'll each pick their own different aspect of the book to kind of focus on. Because it's one of those, I've never read anything else Leroux wrote, but he's like all over the map in this thing. Like, it is just, in some ways, it's kind of a mess of a book. And the fact that you can get one really good stage adaptation and a couple of mediocre movies out of it, that's, pretty impressive. Because I'm not sure
there's a lot to work with.
There is a lot to work with. Because the Wishbone one is very different from everything else that's adapted.
Gosh, Wishbone.
Again, Wishbone. It's a great, it's, there's the Rory Gilmore challenge. There really should be the Wishbone challenge.
The Wishbone challenge.
So what is your last guess, Michelle?
So the last one I was kind of torn as well, because I thought, and I'm going to cheat and do 2, just like Garrett just did 2, because that's fair. I really thought A Handmaid's Tale because of my love of dystopia. But then I thought, everybody's kind of already been doing patterns of A Handmaid's Tale because the series came out. So what would I really like to see in a cross-stitch pattern that I haven't really seen anyone do is To Kill a Mockingbird. So again, one of those like modern classics because I haven't read that one, but I know I'm supposed to have read it. And I haven't. I'm sorry, Garrett. I hope we can still be friends.
How did you get out of public school and not read it?
I don't know, man.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure I was in public school, but so that's what, for my own personal edification, and because I haven't read a book that I'm supposed to have read, there's my last.
Oh yeah, no, I openly admit most of these are books I was supposed to have read at some point probably, but either fell through the
Kristen,
cracks.
We need you.
It
wasn't just me.
It wasn't just you.
It wasn't.
We need your help.
Signed a book in school and like read a third of it, but somehow still was able to write a book report about the whole.
Exactly.
Oh, I openly admit I didn't
listen to the lectures. You can write a book report on it.
Well, I mean, honestly, first chapter, last chapter, essay, done.
Oh, done. I openly admit 9th grade when we did Great Expectations, I didn't read a word of it. I read the Cliff's Notes an hour before the test, took the test. Got a 98. I got 2 points off because the essay topic was how does Pip change over the course of the book? And I said in the beginning of the book, he's a young boy. And at the end of the book, he's a grown adult. And that was my entire essay.
You only got 2 points off for that?
I'm fairly certain my English teacher was drunk and my husband is glaring at me now.
Your English teacher liked you.
I told you this story before. I love you. My husband teaches 9th grade English, so.
Oh, you're in trouble.
But admittedly, he's not and I'm fairly certain that my 9th grade teacher probably was completely drunk through most of the time.
My 10th grade teacher, English teacher, was really, I don't think we read a single book the entire semester. Like every day was just like, let's sit and have conversations about the weirdest stuff.
Oh yeah,
and I don't remember reading a single book that entire year.
I like the ones that teach like that. Like, let's just converse about the world, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Oh, my 10th grade teacher was Professor Trelawney, basically. I mean, just Sybil Trelawney to a T. And and then like I said, junior year we didn't do traditional read. We did, but it was like we would do, because that 11th grade in Texas was American history and American literature. And so she would tie them in together. So we would do things like read The Crucible. And then it was really actually cool. She then had us essentially restage the Salem witchcraft trials. At the start of the week, the following week, she gave us each note cards that said and there was an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch that did this, which is where she got the idea. But she gave us all a note card and said that one of the note cards had witch on it, but the rest just had Puritan, and we had to figure out who the witch was. And because I was not one of the popular kids, immediately the popular kids set upon me as the witch. And of course I played it up to the high hilt. And at the end of the week, it turns out we all had cards that said Puritan.
Everybody.
So it was her way of bringing that. And so we did a lot of stuff like that. So while we didn't read Frankenstein and The Red Badge of Courage and All Quiet on the Western Front or The Great Gatsby, we did all sorts of stuff that I think in some ways may have actually worked more in our favor.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool, and I regret now that I was so wildly immature, because it really was a good like college prep class.
Right.
And I did not appreciate her at the time. But yeah, most of my other English teachers in high school, it was, yeah.
All right, Garrett, fourth
my
guess.
fourth and final book, because I was trying to think of sort of Christmassy, wintry themed. I went with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and this is like my least favorite edition of it because there's no artwork in this. And I do have strong feelings on reading order for this series, but The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was because my thinking was, okay, if we're looking at Christmassy sort of themed books that may not necessarily be specific to Christmas,
It's in it though.
It's in it, but it's sort of in the same way like Little Women isn't really a Christmas story, but it kind of is because the first big section is Christmas, or like Meet Me in St. Louis, not a Christmas movie, but Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas comes from there, so it immediately becomes a Christmas movie. So I was trying to think about ones that were short and easy to get through, and not that Lewis is not a good writer, but he's a fairly easy read writer as compared to, say, like Charlotte Bronte. Yeah. I assume I've never read Charlotte Bronte, but if she's anything like Jane Austen, that's not like a quick light read. So that was those were my thinkings on the books. So
okay, put us out of our misery.
Okay, so let me first just start by saying, for Michelle, because you are relatively new to the group, so the thing is, we typically focus on literature that is in public domain.
Oh, right.
Make everything.
So
I want to make legit. I don't want anybody coming at me.
Right? Know? No, full on. I'm still holding out hope for the count then.
So, just so that everybody's aware, right now in the U.S., public domain is anything prior. I think it's like 1923 or something like that. It's basically before the 1920s.
Yeah.
So that is the focus of book club. So the first selection, and actually, you guys actually got some of them.
Ooh,
Garrett.
This one you did not get. We are going to be going back to our roots. Sorry, Garrett, I know you're not the biggest fan, but we are doing Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility.
Yes.
Which is actually one of the ones I did really enjoy.
I'm in.
Did you? Oh,
yes,
good.
Yes, it was one of the few, because the Jane Austen story, for those who don't know, I took a Jane Austen class specifically in college because I didn't want to read Dickens. And
don't blame me there. Dickens is hard. Other than A Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
even
Christmas
bizarre.
Carol's great. And I liked A Tale of Two Cities, but I just knew that going into the semester I was going into, I had to take my Brit Lit, and I didn't want to have what I thought was going to be an intense amount. And I'd never read Jane Austen. And I thought it was going to be like this terrific class. And it was a once a week class met for 3 hours, which, you know, that's not too weird. 15 weeks. So you take out the final, you take out the midterm, and you take out the first class because you don't have a syllabus. So what would you have read? So that leaves you really 12 weeks. We read all 7 books in that 12 weeks. And the tests were things like we would have to match characters to character traits, which would be fine if you had a variety of authors. But a lot of Jane Austen's characters have there's some shared traits across the novels. So it would be like you would have to pick who did this description fit the best. And then she would give us quotes that were from the books, and we had to identify the quote, the speaker, the book, and its relevancy to the story or to the character, which again can be very difficult to do out of context. So, and then we never once like discussed the books in any real detail. So it was just a hard slog of a semester. So, but I did enjoy Sense and Sensibility and Persuasion were the two that stood out to me the most. So I'm looking forward to Sense and Sensibility.
Mm-hmm. Me too. So, question before we go on, does your edition of the book inform your color choices on the, like you held up a really pretty green and yellow?
Yeah.
Does it inform your, okay. Look at me just trying to mine for more stuff.
For this one, no. I actually already have this pattern designed. I'm actually like halfway through the model.
Nice.
This pattern is going to be a bit unique to book club because all the patterns so far have had really specific references to the novels. And for this one, I have actually designed something that has no specific references to the novel. It's more of like, when you look at it, it just feels like Jane Austen.
Okay.
It just has feel,
very nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really good. I'm loving how it's turning out so far. So
it's going to be, the Jane Austen love in this community is real.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's going to be huge. I can't wait to see it.
Let's
do it.
So yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And are these the order we'll be reading them in? So Sense and Sensibility is first. Okay.
I don't have a start date for it yet. I apparently hate myself because I have once again designed a hand-dyed fabric. So the kits will contain a hand-dyed fabric, and so I will be spending the next several weeks hand-dyeing fabric because I apparently need a lot more kits than what I had for A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I knew when you announced that, I was like, I am not going to try to go for that because because at that point I'd already kind of thought I was going to do it in Krynic, but I thought, you know what, there's going to be so much demand for those. I'm okay missing out on that.
And for this one, just like with the Three Musketeers, because I am doing like a very specific colored fabric, and we have international stitchers, international shipping is insane. I would never pay that. So just like for the Three Musketeers, I will offer like a color conversion for white, stitching on white, so that everybody can participate. You're not going to miss out, but it is going to have a
and that's one of the things that I really love about what you do is you do take that into consideration. And you do offer the alternatives, so that if you can't, and I almost, if I hadn't already had the blue, I almost did Three Musketeers in the white because I really loved how beautiful that conversion was.
Like, I love the Three Musketeers. That fabric was just juicy. I loved that fabric.
That is a good word for that fabric.
Yes.
But then I stitched the mini.
So pretty.
I know.
I really love the mini with the blue conversion. I love it.
And again, your color theory, right? Because like if you hold that conversion on the white fabric up to your blue, next to your blue fabric, it's like they should be together like that.
Yeah,
right?
it's perfect.
Hard to make like flipped opposites of each other.
Fantastic. So fantastic. Okay.
Okay, so book 2.
Book 2.
All right. You guessed it. Little Women.
Whee! Garrett.
This was the second most requested book of all the books ever.
I'm not surprised.
This is the second most requested book. This book has, and other novels. So Little Women's not quite that thick, but it is a relatively thick novel, Little Women. So I'm thinking this is going to be maybe a 4-parter just so that everybody can do it casually. I have not started designing it, but I have an idea. I think it is going to be more of a sampler again. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm going to read that. I already know, like, I'm going to read it with Rosie and I'm going to stitch it and then we're going to hang it in her room. Like,
oh,
done.
yes.
Done. It's perfect.
And I'm excited because now we've got 2 titles that were in, and Michelle and I were talking about this before, but do you remember the Illustrated Junior Library that Grosset and Dunlap did? I was hoping there would be some of those that I could pull from that's in that series, because I really love those editions.
Garrett just wants to buy more books.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
he's messaging me, look at the edition I'm going to buy for this.
It's true. Because
it's beautiful.
well, and some of it is partially because, like, we do have, like, the Barnes & Noble, like, the trade paperback editions, and the text is so tiny that it's harder to read. So I like having the slightly bigger ones. And now my 8-ish editions of Wizard from the Illustrated Junior Library don't have to be lonely.
That's true.
Because I'm insane. So continue. So the next book.
Yes.
So the next book. This is an exciting one because as of like January 5th this coming year, so it's not yet, as of January, this book for the first time goes into public domain.
Nice.
So this book is likely to be everywhere this coming year. Certainly going to be a free-for-all. And you guessed it, Michelle, The Great Gatsby.
Ah.
Yes. Oh, that's going to be so good. Sorry.
Oh, I can't wait to see what you do with that.
I get excited.
People are going to hate me because I already know it's going to be on black fabric. There's no way you can do The Great Gatsby not on black fabric.
You know, I hate black fabric, but I'm 100% behind you on that. Like, it has to be. How can you use that?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't get the sparkle without the.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'll suffer through it.
I'll
suffer through it for you.
I will too.
I will likely offer an alternative as well, but I mean, you really should do it on the black fabric.
You need to do it on the black.
Mm-hmm.
You got to. If I can do it on the black, anybody can do it on the black because I'm a big old baby. So, yes.
Ooh.
I got one.
Yes. Are you ready for the final one?
We are.
Look at us.
You have no idea how hard it has been holding on to this information because, like I said, we do things that are in public domain unless you ask for permission from the copyright holders. So I sought out the copyright holder and I got official permission to do an official Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
That's awesome.
So the C.S. Lewis Foundation has given us permission to do an official The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe style. It'll actually have copyright C.S. Lewis Foundation at the bottom of the pattern.
Gosh.
And there is one stipulation to this. They are allowing me to create 600 patterns and 600 patterns only. If you want to, you better do it because it is not allowed to be offered after the 600 point.
Wow.
First of all, like, holy cow, that's amazing.
Wow.
Like, congratulations for going for that and getting
So
it.
hard.
That's incredible.
That's amazing.
Second of all, let me just address the viewers for a second. Y'all, don't sleep.
Yeah.
600 can go like that.
Yeah, that
like,
can go.
You know, we've only hit 600 with A Christmas Carol, but this is a whole year away. This will be next winter. I expect to have another maybe 1,000 followers by then if we keep going at the rate we're going at now.
Right.
And if it's, you know, even if we don't hit 600 during the sale, they said once the sale is over, I cannot offer the pattern. So if you want to participate, you better sign up when it's available.
Like, and you'll do the same thing, right? Where you open the pre-sale before the sale starts and you announce it and everything. So like, we'll have time.
Yes.
But like,
I will be setting
set an alarm.
Yeah, I will be definitely setting an alarm. And
everybody set an alarm 5 minutes after I set an alarm.
Yes.
That's selfish.
Oh, that's exciting.
Oh my gosh.
That is so cool.
Incredible. Yeah.
And so, do you know what you want to do? Like, do you know for that one? I feel like.
Yeah. So for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I don't have an exact idea of what I want to do, but I will say this. This is like my one and only chance at The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah. We
always go back to Pride and Prejudice, whatever. We have one shot with this.
Right.
So I'm going all out with this pattern. It's probably going to be way bigger than the book calls for. So I don't want anybody to worry about like keeping up with the stitching, because this is just going to be it.
Right, because you have to, that's a good point, right? Like you have to go for it, because this is, yeah, wow.
That's so exciting.
Wow.
And also this is really awesome because now it's given me so much encouragement, like of Mice and Men, things like that. There's so many books post 20, literature in the 20th century that we could do. I now feel encouraged to pursue that.
Right.
So in the coming years, I'm definitely going to be looking at some more modern works for us.
Awesome. That's so cool.
That's congratulations. Like, congratulations. That is, and thank you so much for sharing that with us, because like, how did you not how did you not tell anyone?
I was holding on to this information.
Oh my gosh.
That is so cool.
Do you feel like a weight has been lifted now that you could share that? Like, oh,
that's exciting.
It's going to be a fantastic 2021. That's
yes, it is.
Oh man. Gotta work this into my plans.
I'm excited.
I'm ready.
And that's 2 of them that are illustrated
Garrett.
in your library. And I think we probably have. I would be surprised if we don't have Gatsby somewhere over there on that shelf. I just can't see it from here.
I have the same.
Blind.
Kristen, I have the same Gatsby you have. I feel like that cover is so iconic. Yeah.
Well, and there's very few like editions of Gatsby right now, but there's so many scheduled to drop in January when copyright expires. So yeah, everybody just hang on, because they're out soon.
Yeah.
Well, and copyright is so weird because it's different country to country, and because like in England, I think The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is in public domain now because it's 50 years after the author passes, their copyright expires. So it's like you keep copyright in the UK as long as you're alive. So and it doesn't always even apply to the same thing. So like books are one thing, but like music is another thing, but then movies are a totally separate thing. And it's so it's weird.
Been driving me crazy. It took me forever to figure out copyright, and that's why I've never tried to do anything more modern. But I was just like, what's the worst that can happen? They'll tell me no. And
and then you pick another book and it'll be great, right? But
that's so exciting. And I feel bad for my husband because that means there's gonna be a whole lot of watching the BBC version next year, because that's the best version.
You're welcome, G.
So something I kind of wanted to go back to, because you mentioned that the ones this year you hadn't read. And I'm guessing next year's you have read. So how far in advance do you start actually getting the design together and reading the book to figure out the discussion questions? What's the process with that?
I'm kind of a procrastinator, which is why the fact that I'm like ahead of schedule on Sense and Sensibility is like, yay me.
Super exciting.
I try to like, typically what happens is when you guys have started the stitching for a style, I have already started the stitching for the next one. So like you guys are doing A Christmas Carol, I'm working on Sense and Sensibility, which kind of gives me a disconnect between everybody, but that's the way it's got to be, The reading, a lot of the times I will hold off until like the style has actually started, and then so that the reading is fresh and that I can come up with the discussion questions and stuff. I wish I was a little prepared farther out, but it is what it is, it works.
So do you have I wondered this, do you have a background like in literature or in teaching, or do you just love to read and love to facilitate other people reading?
So I was originally a lit major in college.
Okay.
I hated the lit program at my university and ended up switching, and I actually have my degree in history. But history and literature, it's unbelievable how well they go together.
Right.
But ever since I was 13, I wanted to actually be a writer myself. So literature has always been just a huge part of my life. That hasn't happened yet, but fingers crossed for the future.
Yeah. Lots of time. Lots of time.
Yeah, lots of time.
How old was Hemingway when he wrote The Old Man and the Sea? Like 50 something?
Yeah.
Lots of time.
Yeah,
Lots
you've got plenty of time. Plenty of time. So what sort of like challenges have you sort of come up against as you've done the book club? Like, things you've learned, things that you said, oh, we'll try it. I mean, obviously we know Teachable was not a great experience. So, but beyond Teachable, what sort of things have you learned and taken and kind of figured out as you've gone? What like has maybe worked but better than you thought? What hasn't worked as well? Sort of general sort of thoughts.
I mean, first of all, the absolute hardest part of the whole process is picking out the floss colors. That will forever and always be the absolute hardest part. Other than that, I think just keeping up on communication, like life gets so hectic at times, you know, sometimes it's hard. Like I have an Instagram account, I have a Facebook page, I have a blog, I have a FlossTube channel, and just like trying to keep up with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a month will go by and I'll be like, I didn't even post on the blog this entire month, you know? So it has been really hard to just like juggle everything. But I mean, it's worked. People seem to still find me regardless of how little I post things. So it's worked.
So which, because I don't think I asked this earlier, but I was thinking it earlier, which book so far has been the hardest one to design for, and which one's been the easiest?
The two hardest were probably The Secret Garden and Carol. A Christmas Carol, because I was trying really hard to keep it in that small design window. I wanted it to be small, and everything I kept coming up with kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I kept trying to make it smaller. And then I had designed a completely different pattern, started stitching it on a red fabric actually, and no matter what flosses I used, I just hated it. And so I scrapped the whole thing, designed something new. So that one was really hard. The Secret Garden was hard, again, because same thing, I had a completely different idea in mind, and then it just kind of evolved into this new thing. And then picking out the floss colors for The Secret Garden, I think I ripped out as much floss as I ended up putting in, because I was like, every time I put a new color in, I was like, no, it doesn't work.
Oh, worth it though. Worth
Yeah.
it.
And then you finally get the right color, and you're just like, oh, perfect. So, yeah.
Do you have any other questions or thoughts, Michelle?
No, I'm just like, I'm still so blown away by the copyright thing. Like,
I know that's like the. I mean, man, I don't think I could have kept quiet.
And you said, I know, right? And so you said you have a hand dyed for us, for Sense and Sensibility.
Yes.
Would you rather do like a hand dyed fabric on your own? Are you happy with the, like, some of them just like Frankenstein on white works perfectly well. Do you find yourself preferring one or the other, or?
You know, A Christmas Carol was the first time I had ever hand dyed fabric. So it's new, but now that I know that I can do it, some of my designs just have to have a certain color fabric. And like for the Three Musketeers, I searched for literally months to find the right color fabric. And when I finally found it, I was so excited because I was just about ready to give up on finding that color. So the hand dyes, I don't want to do them like every single time, but if the pattern requires it, I'm absolutely going to go for it.
Okay. So if you have, like, if the pattern tells you it needs that color, you're not going to spend another 6 months looking for the color. You're just going to dye it yourself from now on.
Probably, yeah. I mean, unless I can like find it easily, then I would probably.
Right.
But like, I actually have some of the Sense and Sensibility fabric right here.
Ooh.
And so this is what I'm calling Sense and Sensibility Blue.
Ooh.
Ooh, that's so soft.
Kind of showing up weird in the lighting, but it's just like a really like nice eggshell blue color.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Nice.
And every fabric that I found was either way darker than this or way lighter than this. And we're going to have a lot of white stitching on this. Ooh. So like the icy blue fabrics, it just wasn't showing up at all.
Right. Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm going to dye my own fabric.
Very nice. Very nice. And you do, I think with blues too, you get a lot of modeling. Like a lot of them are very modeled and that looks very subtle and like just like I need to have a cup of tea with it, you know? Like, I'm gonna be feeling very prim and proper when I'm stitching that. We should wear fascinators while we stitch it, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Really get into the
Pretend-
spirit.
Pretend to be Emma Thompson or Kate Winslet.
Yes.
Because I'd be Emma Thompson. As much as I would like to think I'm glamorous enough to be Kate Winslet, I'm not.
Oh, neither am I, but
I'm
I'm
not.
gonna try anyway. It's okay.
I'm not quite that elegant. All right. Do you want to do a giveaway or no? It's up to you. You don't. Okay.
I actually have a very big giveaway. In honor of doing 4 novels next year, I'm going to be giving away 4 year-long subscriptions to
Oh
my gosh.
that's
all 4
awesome.
including The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So technically there will only be 596 available. So yeah. So in the comments of the video to enter, if you can just tell me which of the 4 books you're most excited about, you'll have a chance. And I'll keep it active because everybody doesn't have a chance to watch this like as soon as it goes up. So I'm going to keep it active until the end of the year. So January 1st, I will be selecting 4 people for a year-long subscription to Stitchy.
Very cool.
And so is that a year-long subscription including the kits too, or
no, just the patterns, just the patterns.
Okay.
Which is more than generous enough.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make it very clear.
Yes,
very
so
clear.
it's going to be all 4 patterns. There will be 4 winners. And what we'll do, I'll make sure down below that we have the official, here's the giveaway. It will end on December 31st at your Eastern. So we'll say midnight Eastern. That way it's just midnight for you. And then if you want, you and I can maybe, or all 3 of us can do like a quick thing New Year's Day or something just to pop in, make the announcement, and be good to go.
Pretty good.
So
that's exciting.
That is very exciting.
So generous.
So, well, very cool. Very, very cool. So we've got next year all announced and ready. So I guess that kind of brings us to our last 2 questions that we ask all interviewees. So the first one is what, and this is the first one comes from the wonderful James Lipton of Inside the Actors Studio. What is your favorite swear word?
Which I find so funny. I don't know that I have a favorite swear word.
And if you don't, that's okay. But
or if it's an unswear, right? Like
yeah.
Yes. No, so I actually say fudgesicle a lot.
Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect.
And I say oh bother, like poo. I say oh bother.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too.
But other than that, I really like British swearing. Like they are way better at it than we are.
They really are.
They're more refined about it somehow, aren't they? Like
art over there. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the British know how to swear. That's for sure.
So. British slang in general, right?
It's true. Like I would much rather call it a lift than an elevator.
Right. Or snogging instead of kissing, right?
Yeah.
Snogging. That just makes you smile when you say it.
My dad and I love to watch the Planet Earth series and stuff, and we're like, however David Attenborough says it, that's how it's actually said.
Which is like
there's a lot of words that are different.
That's the law, right? If David Attenborough does it, that's how you should do it.
That's how
period.
Well, that was one of the things that I discovered when reading Christmas Carol. I was like, why is he calling them staves? What is that? So I finally Googled it, and stave is what they refer to music staffs as in England. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. A Christmas Carol music staffs. Okay.
Just learning.
And I know, it's like, well, now I just want to always call them staves. Not that I ever do anything with music to justify that anymore.
You could work it into the conversation.
It's
somehow.
true. It's true.
Yeah.
All right. So the second question is, who would play us in Stitchmania, the talk show, the movie?
Okay. This is a very weird question, but
it's so hard. I've been on your side of it. It's so hard.
But what I came up with is, and he's an actor, but I actually know him more from, he's written a series of children's books too, and that's actually how I know him better. For Garrett, Chris Colfer.
Okay. He was Kurt on Glee.
He was in Glee.
Okay.
Yeah. I do not have the falsetto he has. I would kill for that falsetto.
the land of stories, and that's how I actually know who he is. And you've kind of got the same look as him a bit.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then for Michelle, I honestly think like Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, thank you.
Ooh.
We're friends for life. For life. What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll take it and I'll give you your $5 later.
I always say Julia Stiles for Michelle.
I'll take that too.
Yeah.
One too. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why Scarlett Johansson was literally the first thing that popped into my head.
Thank you. I feel like the only thing you can say to that is thank you.
Yeah, no, those are great choices. It's always just sort of, I like the question because it's always interesting to see how other people see me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I know it's a weird question, and it came about because when we were discussing doing Stitch Maynia the talk show, it was like, we should have like 2 questions that we always ask every guest. And that was what I came up with. And Katie didn't challenge me.
Who else have you gotten, Garrett? What have other people said?
I got Neil Patrick Harris from Fortnite.
I said Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Because he can sing. I was like, I need somebody that can act and sing, right? Like, so.
So, and then Katie, I don't remember who Katie's gotten because I don't really only care who I get.
Who did I say for Katie? Rebel Wilson?
I think so.
I think I said Rebel. Because see, then the funny part is you have to picture those two together in a movie.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, I can
and
see
Rebel Wilson. It would be hilarious.
Oh yeah.
See, I mean, like Melissa McCartney for.
Oh, did I say Melissa McCarthy? I might have.
Maybe.
Whatever.
But that's where that question comes from. Is it?
It's a fun question. It's a terrible question and a fun question.
I like to put people on the spot. In fact, you got interview questions. A lot of people don't.
Really?
Which, for anyone who ever does appear on the show, I will, as a full disclaimer, if you want questions or you want like a general idea, please ask us. We certainly don't mind doing it because I know it can be real intimidating to have to come up with things on the fly.
My brain goes mush when I'm put on the spot for things.
Oh, you were fantastic. You're a fantastic interview.
This is so much fun. Thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on and sharing with us and telling us what next year's books are going to be. That's very, very exciting.
We'll remind everybody that you can, even though next year, we're super excited about next year, you can still get all of the past ones. So if you see this and you're like, oh man, I need to stitch. Yeah,
somehow you missed that. You missed it through my Instagram or others on Instagram. They're all still available. They're all priced. They're what, $10? Is the standard?
They're almost all $10. Yeah,
they're super affordable. Yeah, super affordable. They're well worth it.
And you get all the previous discussion questions, which you can go back to on the Stitching Book Club Instagram, and contribute there if you want. So it's definitely a really fun, different sort of interactive Sal that's out there, and that's I think part of what I love the reading, I love the stitching, but I also love the interaction that comes with it.
A little community within a community, which is always nice to feel part of.
So again, thank you so much for being here, Kristen, and again for stepping in and filling in again today, Michelle.
Thank you.
Katie is planning to be back in January, but we will, if not, then I'm going to drag Michelle kicking and screaming into 2021 with me.
It's not hard.
So as always, if you are on Facebook, you can find Stitching Book Club on Facebook. Stitch Maynia is on Facebook. If you're requesting to join, do remember there are 3 questions. One of them you have to answer verbatim, and you've also got to say that you read the rules and that you agree to them. The majority of the people who get declined, it's because they don't click that they've read the rules. So follow us there. I'm Coffee Stitcher on Instagram. Please feel free to follow me. Michelle, your handle,
Michelle Bendy?
I think so. Let's go with that. We'll go with that.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. What matters is Kristen is at Stitching Book Club and at Sapphire Mountain MTN in the middle.
MT, yeah.
MT, Handcrafts.
Yep.
And you can follow us there. And as always, thank you again for watching. We do have a Patreon. Please feel free to subscribe. This one, because of the announcement, will not be going live to Patreon a day early. So we will come up with something else for y'all as a thank you for that. But I didn't want to release it live to Patreon on like one day and then have just a handful of people know and then be talking about it and kind of spoil the announcement. So we'll have something special for our Patreons as a thank you. I will figure out what that is. But thanks again to everyone who likes, follows, and subscribes. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. We will see you on January 1st with the announcement for the winners. And have a great holiday season. I know some of the holidays have already come and gone, and some of them are still yet to come. So happy holidays to anyone who observes any of the holidays. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.